Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Obsicast. My guest today is a spirit sister, Camila dos Santos, who's a naturopath and a functional medicine practitioner. Camila and I go back, not a long time, but a very, very deep friendship. We traveled to Ecuador together, where we had various experiences with plant medicine, and I discovered Camila and her vast knowledge of our nutrition and our body and everything about it, which is so exciting for me. And every time I get to Camila, I have so many questions. Camila has kindly agreed to be a regular guest on Obsicast, and each month we will have an episode together where we talk about a topic which is important to us and to the modern world. A lot of things we've got wrong, and it's great to have Camila on the show. Welcome to the program, Sister Camila.
Thank you so much, Sister. It is my greatest joy to be here today and an honor to be a regular on your show, on our show.
Thank you, thank you. So, first of all, for those of you who don't know you, can you tell us a bit about yourself, your journey, and how you became who you've become?
So I am a naturopath and functional medicine practitioner. So I started off with naturopathy after I developed a herniated disc in my spine and dedicating much of my life to dance, to athletics. And this completely shifted my perception of reality. I had to stop, I had to slow down, and I had to understand how I could heal my body in depth. Aside from just taking painkillers and anti-inflammatories, how could I really support my body and regenerate my spine at such a young age? This happened at 22. And so this was when I really took note of what an anti-inflammatory diet really means, what botanicals and what nutrients can help support my body so that I can slowly regenerate. I gained back all my physical function. I can do absolutely everything now, so much so that I'm connecting back with dance now again, developing therapeutic dance as an ecstatic dance with Opsi dance, and also with different groups of practitioners in different companies. More and more ecstatic dances is being invited into my life. And so that's truly sacred and special for me to connect all that I was before, my background in physical activity and movement, with therapeutic healing nowadays. So on a day-to-day basis, I give one-to-one consultations, also online. I have an online consultation counseling business setup. And I also support people in healing through lifestyle, using tools such as breath work, such as meditation, and even tapping into ancient and sacred traditions, like our Ecuadorian sacred traditions that we were exposed to, connecting with Ayurvedic medicine, pranayama, and some yogic movement as well. So essentially, naturopathy and functional medicine is improving one's health, preventing disease, and optimizing how one feels and experiences life through nutrition, through supplementation, and then all these holistic practices that include breathwork, exercise, movement, meditation, delving a bit deeper into the soul. This is how we get into the deeper layers and really assess root causes of illness or imbalance.
There's so much we can talk about.
Yes.
Because you're truly holistic and you look at everything. But for this episode, we decided to talk about something that is actually close to me, not to you, because you're much younger. And that's the topic of perimenopause. Mm-hmm. Which, to be honest with you, I didn't know much about, and I still don't know much about. That's why I would like to tap into it and find out about your deep knowledge about all of that. So went to the GP. I had a couple of symptoms. I had foggy brain. I was a bit tired. And one of the things that the GP said was that, oh, you could be perimenopausal. And I thought, what is perimenopause? I've only heard about menopause. What is perimenopause? So that is a question for you, and that's the topic of this episode. What is perimenopause? How is it different from menopause? And what are the symptoms?
So the majority of my patients that I've seen are usually between 30 years of age and 60 years of age. And this is when a woman can start to experience perimenopausal symptoms. So perimenopause is the lead up to menopause, often around 12 months. And after you've had no bleed, no menstrual period for 12 months, then we consider it menopause. From that point on, you are postmenopausal. You have no more ovulation, and ovulation, you don't have a bleed anymore, and you can't get pregnant anymore. But perimenopause just means close to menopause. And so about a year, depends on each woman, leading up to the menopause, which usually happens early 50s, most usually, it can vary, but early 50s, is an imbalance in the hormones. Estrogen starts to drop. Progesterone starts to drop, even more so if we live a very stressful lifestyle. A specific phenomena occurs, which is called the progesterone cortisol steal. So if you have a lot of stress, a lot of the cortisol hormone in your body, either because you have mental or emotional stress, or then there's physical stress as well, this will steal away from progesterone production. And there's meant to be a very synergistic balance between progesterone and estrogen. If one is out of balance, it will affect the other. And then something else many don't speak about is testosterone as well, which will also decrease. And this will reflect in certain signs and symptoms. Depending on how many pregnancies we've had, if we've been exposed to toxins, especially BPAs, phthalates, depending on the amount of stresses in our life beforehand, we will all experience perimenopause differently. But for everyone, we are having the decrease in hormones. It's just the signs and symptoms that are slightly different. Number one, brain fog, as you say, low mood. So very often if you go to your GP and you're starting to experience perimenopause, they will suggest antidepressants. And these are unfortunately overprescribed. Short term, they're beneficial, but long term, they can cause havoc to the body. Then, of course, you have hot flushes. Many people relate this to solely low estrogen, but in fact, it is related to the balance between progesterone and estrogen and the way you metabolize and excrete your estrogen from your body. Then there are other signs and symptoms, like, for example, musculoskeletal tension, lots of tension in the body, especially the shoulders and neck and back. We often get that. With effect to the mood, often we will see, because of the gut-brain axis, there'll be disturbances in the GI tract as well. And the list can really go on. Topically, what we see is less skin elasticity. So aging of the skin, of course. There's also vaginal dryness and lower libido, which is even more so related to that lowering of testosterone. So we need to talk about all the three main sex hormones,
which are estrogen, progesterone and
testosterone.
And all of them are lowered during perimenopause.
All of them slowly decrease. There are fluctuations throughout many perimenopause, and then there's a constant decline once we get to menopause. But it is the fluctuation that creates all these signs and symptoms during perimenopause.
How can these be avoided, if they can be avoided, or if there's any supplements, natural supplements that people can take to reduce these symptoms?
Absolutely. So this is multifactorial, as we've said. And that's why naturopathy and functional medicine is so good to support these transitions in our life, because we have to look at it from a multifactorial perspective. And this is what naturopathy and functional medicine offer. Number one, as we said, the cortisol steal. Stress is called cortisol in the body. If we experience a lot of either mental stress due to our perception of reality, right, maybe our imagination, but our perception, or if we experience a lot of emotional stress, which, yes, is filtered through the mind, but again, depends on our ego and perception, or then if we're putting the body literally under a lot of stress, like working excessive hours, not sleeping enough, following a refined inflammatory diet, then these stresses will steal away from our progesterone production, right? Fundamental for sleep, fundamental for energy, fundamental for mood. And it will affect the quality of healthy estrogens we produce and the metabolism and excretion of these estrogens. Remembering that hormones are produced, they are used, and then they are released from the body. They have to be cycled. If we don't have proper metabolism of estrogens happening in our liver, and enough of particular nutrients and antioxidants and fiber in our gut, the used estrogens will be reabsorbed by the gut lining back into the cardiovascular system, and almost all of our tissues are sensitive to estrogen. The body thinks, oh, there's still estrogen pumping around the body. I'm not going to produce any new estrogen. But in fact, this is non-functional estrogen. Mm-hmm. And this all births from having high cortisol, having high stress. So first and foremost, we need to take a look at our lifestyle. What are the key stresses in our life, key stress triggers? And how are we dealing with these triggers? Can we avoid or remove ourselves from these stressful situations or environments? Or is the best we can do to manage? For management, number one, our free, sacred tool that we have and hold within us is breath. So noticing that every time you inhale, if you were to do a heart monitoring machine test now to see your blood pressure, every time you inhale, blood pressure goes up. Mm-hmm. Blood pressure and the way the heart pumps is responsive to cortisol. So literally every time you inhale, you are connecting with your sympathetic nervous system and increasing a bit more cortisol in the body. When you are exhaling, releasing carbon dioxide from the system, you are lowering blood pressure. You'd see on the machine that the raise goes slower. There's a better, more rhythmic pattern to it. Because when you exhale, you lower cortisol in the body. And the heart, of course, responds to cortisol and adrenaline. This is what drives how your heart pumps, how it sends blood to all the tissues of the body. So already just focusing on the exhale, you're going to lower blood pressure, yes, but lower cortisol, lower your stress levels in the body. Also, we know that carbon dioxide has a low pH in the body. What is pH? Acid, right? Low pH is acid. So if we have an acidic cell environment, we're contributing even more to that stress. We're contributing to inflammation. So the more carbon dioxide we blow out of the body, the longer the exhale. The more carbon dioxide we excrete, the more we raise our pH, the more alkaline we become. This literally is a switch, a biochemical switch that switches off our fight and flight system, cortisol, adrenaline, acid, inflammation, and triggers our parasympathetic, rest, digest, and regenerate, the alkaline healing system of the body. This will immediately lower cortisol and help your body produce more healthy estrogen, help your body produce more healthy progesterone, and maintain testosterone levels. So number one is breath. Number two is trying to live a balanced lifestyle in terms of work and home balance, in terms of nutrition, ensuring that you have a good night's sleep every night. And then supplements, of course, play a huge role, depending on particular needs. If you want to boost those hormone levels, if you need to lower stress, if you need to promote metabolization and excretion of those dangerous hormones, those metabolites, very often, if my patients are open to it, we'll approach it from all three aspects, because it's important, all three together, but not everyone is ready for that amount of supplementation.
So I want to get into details of the supplements later, but you mentioned stress and work-life balance, but a lot of people don't have the luxury of changing their jobs, and we know that we are living in a very high-stressed environment in modern life. You briefly mentioned food and diet. What have we got wrong there before we move to supplements?
Fantastic. Yes, thank you. Food is the foundation. We only use supplementation because the way we produce food, a lot of our foods have been ripped from, they don't have the same amount of minerals or antioxidants they once had. So they're not as therapeutically effective as they once were. And now we've also done a lot of scientific studies. We have a lot of clinical practice so that we understand dosage has to be higher to get the effects we're looking for. But either way, nutrition is the foundation. First and foremost, with this discussion about cortisol and stress, cortisol and stress is going to lead to a lot of oxidation in the body. So to compensate for that root factor, first and foremost, we need to follow an anti-inflammatory diet, which is naturally going to be very high in antioxidants, because an anti-inflammatory diet means avoiding industrialized, commercial, refined foods like white flour, refined wheat, refined sugar,
Which is in almost everything.
Almost in everything, a hidden ingredient in so many different products. And the problem is we don't know how to read the labels. This is something I like to teach my patients. Those are going to create more stress in the body, and those are inflammatory, whereas anti-inflammatory foods that we should favor are foods from the earth and whole grain foods and organically produced foods. Although there are many different laws on organic produce, it's the best we can get. It's the maximum control we do have. So this looks like a very colorful diet. It looks like going to the market and sourcing your produce as well as possible. Now, many doctors and also functional medicine practitioners, depending on how much time we have, we'll talk about a balanced diet. There are many different types of diet, but a balanced anti-inflammatory diet, especially for balancing the hormones, looks like 3 meals a day, at least around 3, if not 4 hours in between each main meal. We have 1 plate of food with about a fist-sized source of organic meat, fish, or then pulses, legumes, right, depending on what diet you follow, if you're vegetarian, vegan, except meat and fish. Then we want all colorful vegetables, right, rich in fiber, rich in antioxidants, especially greens. These are extremely alkalizing because they are so rich in minerals. Yes, leafy greens, even more so cruciferous vegetables. So you've got your broccoli, you've got your kale, all the different cabbages. You have fermented cabbages, even better. Skyrockets vitamin C levels, rich in digestive enzymes as well. Remembering that we said that stress early on does affect the GI tract. We want to keep that in mind. So fermented foods, if we have fermented natural foods, even better, we get more benefits from that. And then, of course, we want whole grain or whole food sources of our carbohydrates. The more color and diversity, the better. So carbohydrates on the plate, we don't want pasta. We don't want couscous, which is just another form of pasta, really. White potatoes are okay, but they're not the most nutritious. We want sweet potatoes. We want pumpkin, right? We want quinoa. We want buckwheat. We want millet. These are the different whole foods and grains that are starches. This way, we have a balanced plate of protein and healthy fats, organic sourcing of protein, always richer, higher levels of omega-3, anti-inflammatory, our colorful vegetables, especially our greens, and then our carbs, right? Either whole grain or whole food, 3 times a day. Intermittent fasting is great, but it does raise your cortisol levels.
Oh, does it?
So 12 hours is cool. 16 hours is a bit much for the body, depending on the body.
Is that why they say that it's not recommended for women to go on long intermittent fasting?
Women who are still mensing should only intermittent fast 3/4 of their cycle until their luteal phase. So after ovulation, we have a dip in the hormones right before our bleed. And during that phase, around 7 days, some have a luteal phase of 10 days, we should have 3 meals a day.
Okay. So this is after having their period or before?
Before.
Before having their period.
7 to 10 days before your bleed.
Okay, so they have to eat 3 meals.
Yes.
Right. That's very, very interesting. I had no idea that fasting diet would increase cortisol. So that's.
And then, of course, if I may add, there's just so much information to share, and I'm so excited to share this all with you. Is it specific therapeutic foods that will increase each hormone? and help metabolize the hormones further. So far we've spoken about cortisol, which is our root cause and affects all the sex hormones and affects perimenopause, right? But there are particular therapeutic foods that we can consume on a more regular basis to support each hormone's production. With estrogen, number one is soy. We want organic soy because it's a highly genetically modified food. It's rich in isoflavones, and isoflavones are phytoestrogens, plant estrogens. So they look like and act like estrogens in the body, and it is an excellent way to increase your estrogen levels as long as you're metabolizing those estrogens right. I usually suggest about 3 to 4 times a week having some miso paste or some tempeh. This is fermented soy. And fermented soy is like tofu or edamame, but it needs to be organic. Then linseeds and flax seeds have lignans in them, which also have a phytoestrogen effect in the body. So having about a tablespoon, we can bring it down to a teaspoon, but a tablespoon is better, of ground flax seeds just on top of any meal during a day, once a day, is perfect and really quite important for the body. Then there are many herbs that have a soft estrogenic effect, but those ones are the most potent, in fact. Things like rosemary, peppermint, sage, all of those have a soft estrogenic effect. For progesterone, we have a little bit of difficulty, but you can try wild yam, which is supportive of estrogen and progesterone.
What is that?
Wild yam.
Wild yam. Okay. What is that? I've never heard of it.
Can hardly find it.
Okay.
It's very hard to source. I found it once in Borough Market in London. So that's what I'm saying. And it's not too bioavailable through food, but the progesterone equivalent that also supports estrogen production is well absorbed through the skin. So often we have a wild yam cream. This is also in part, they use wild yam for bioidentical hormone therapy alongside soy. So it just goes to show. Balancing your omega-3, 6, 9 ratio, healthy fats, very important for progesterone.
How do we do that?
So ensuring you're having no refined, genetically modified seed oils, margarines, corn oil, soy oil, all of that. And then deli meats as well, especially pork, which are very rich in omega-6 and 9. These are pro-inflammatory, right? Making sure you get enough omega-3, some also from your wild-caught fish, from your chia seeds, from your walnuts. You can assess this in functional medicine, naturopathy. We do little tests where we can assess this ratio amongst many other things to take a look at that, and that will help progesterone. Of course, also reminding everyone that stress management, even through food, is fundamental for progesterone. Reminding everyone. Then lastly, testosterone, cacao, raw, natural chocolate cacao is excellent for testosterone production. So is pumpkin seeds and oysters, rich in magnesium and zinc, perfect for testosterone production.
Amazing. So those are the food and herbs that we can eat, but then let's now talk about supplements. Because this is also a very big topic where there are a lot of myths about it. Some people say, oh, supplements are not absorbed. I want to know your view about supplements. Do they really work? And what do perimenopausal women should take, in your opinion?
They definitely work, but you need the right type, the right brand, the right dosage. And different supplements work for different people. That's why I'm going to go through some general supplements today, but I really like to evaluate each case as an individual case because everyone is absolutely so unique. Their needs and their willingness and ability to change and incorporate new things into their life. We want to make sure that it's comfortable and doable, that we have doable goals for each patient. So listing the supplements that are good for each hormone, first and foremost, perhaps. This would definitely be, so we want to bring in some primrose oil, either some soy or kudzu isoflavones, hops, also known as Humulus lupulus, in for estrogen support. Those are key estrogen supporters. For progesterone, again, we're going to go back to the omega-3-6-9 balance and stress regulation. This can also happen through adaptogenic supplementation. So adaptogens are herbs that support our ability to adapt to stress. There are different levels of stress and different phases that we can find ourselves in, our ability to deal with stress. And so there are different herbs for different phases. Again, more bespoke therapeutics that we get into, but generally we'll start off with something like an ashwagandha, which is also very supportive for the thyroid, which is one of the glands that gets affected by stress and affects our sex hormone production as well. Rhodiola is also great, Rhodiola rosea. This one lowers cortisol but raises energy levels in the body. Then we also use for stress regulation things like L-theanine. It's the amino acid from green tea. There's also a wonderful plant called magnolia, which is wonderful for lowering cortisol levels, regulating them, and also improving sugar cravings, or related to the stress aspect. This will reflect directly on progesterone. Then finally, for testosterone, one of the key plants that we use is tonkat and Tribulus terrestris. They are excellent at increasing testosterone levels. This is to increase the hormones, but then we need to make sure people are metabolizing them adequately as well, right? Remembering that we need to excrete them out the body for the body to produce new healthy ones. For this metabolism, we use a compound that we get from cruciferous vegetables and from the mustard family, which is called DIM and calcium D-glucarate. These help with glucuronidation in the liver. We also need methylated B complex. We need magnesium, and we need some iron. Then once we've metabolized our hormones, they go to the gut, and in the gut we need to have enough glutathione. This is the master antioxidant of the body. So often I'll give a multi-nutrient that contains all of these key nutrients for the metabolism, and then we'll work with one or two plants or a blend that supports hormone production. And then we'll just ensure that metabolism is happening optimally, and we have approached the issue of stress in the best way possible. So it's usually the therapeutic supplementation focused.
But this sounds like a lot.
It's a huge amount. I do testing
Do
as
we
well to see
really?
all of this.
That's one of my questions is that, we as a species, we've been around for hundreds of thousands of years without taking supplements. Do we really need so much supplements in order to live a less difficult life?
The way we've developed some of the cities, we're exposed to a lot of toxins, and through the food chain as well. A major one is microplastics. So if you can remove yourself from a microplastic filled life, that would be excellent.
Well, that's impossible now. It's everywhere. It's even in tap water.
It's in tap water. We find it in the bloodstream. It's everywhere, really. Heavy metals also do influence, but the number one is microplastics because they contain phthalates, BPAs, which mimic estrogens, but in a dangerous way. They lead to endocrine imbalance, hormone imbalance, and they lead to endocrine cancers as well. And so for me, this is the major contributor. There are some blue zones in the world where we see, especially in, for example, Asian countries where there's a lot of consumption of soy, a lot of consumption of green tea, whole foods, and a less stressed lifestyle. This is often where we don't see perimenopausal and menopausal symptoms, for example, still until today. So if you can lower your toxin load, that would be amazing. And again, those compounds that help metabolize estrogens out the body, they are helping metabolize and excrete the BPAs as well from your system. So we kind of do need these supplements. In terms of food, we said that these compounds come from cruciferous, the cruciferous family that we spoke about in the beginning, the hardy greens, the broccoli, the cabbages, and the radishes, essentially. We also have watercress and rocket in there. So those help, but only completely removing oneself from this microplastic environment would possibly
Which
take
in the modern world is impossible. Even when you go and buy fruits, they're all wrapped in plastic, and then all the everything is in a plastic container, and then it's being heated up in a microwave, which also is very dangerous. So I'm very aware of microplastics, and I try so hard to get rid of them, but it's impossible.
It is quite. So we just have to try our best with food and supplementation. Remembering as well that stressing about these, we should be aware of them, but not stress too much about them. Because the more stress we have, we're just contributing to the cycle of hormone imbalance. It's more oxidation in the body. It's more cortisol seal from our hormone production. And we've got lots of dangerous metabolites, and we're not producing new healthy ones. So we do what we can. We choose glass containers. We never heat anything up in a plastic container, whether it be in a microwave or not. We see water bottles, for example, in the supermarket, and we think, okay, that hasn't been heated up, it should be fine. But we don't know how far and how long they've been transported in a hot truck under the sun, for example. Foods that contain a lot of fats that are wrapped in plastic as well will absorb the toxins of the plastic, will absorb the BPA. So like, for example, cheeses and butters, we need to be aware of those. As well, as you said, tap water, we should filter our water. In canned foods, we've discovered there's a huge amount of microplastics, of course, because they use tap water, amongst other things.
So, Camila, how can women cultivate a deeper connection with their own body?
Awareness, being in tune, we need to slow down. Just as I did now, the first moments of recognition in consultation or in group, I always suggest a nice deep breath to invite the sensation of breath work. Sinking into the moment, landing into the present. Right? It is actually the only true moment that exists. We have a perception of our past. We have projections for the future. And it's when we're living much in our minds in the past and in the future that we aren't centered, that we aren't aware of everything that is happening in our bodies. We haven't been taught to be in tune with our bodies, but we can learn this if we create the time and space. So as you're saying earlier on, many of us live lives that are stressful, or a job that we have to continue performing, but it's not aligned with us. Creating pockets of time, creating boundaries, scheduling self-care to breathe deeply and move into more of a meditative state, either with someone or a guided meditation, will help you move into the present, move into your body. Each and every human being on this earth is highly sensitive, but we have to create time and space to allow that to be cultivated. From that point on, immediately when we are breathing, when we are meditating, when we are being guided through meditation, we shift into a parasympathetic mode. We switch off our fight and flight. Cortisol goes down. Blood pressure is regulated. Hormone production increases. Metabolism increases. The body's functioning is optimized simply by slowing down, connecting, breathing, and allowing a meditative state. So meditation comes in many different forms. We don't have to do a body scan. We can do a body scan using the power of the mind to feel into each area of the body, moving downward to ground the energy. This helps people really sense what is happening in each area of the body, connecting to each area of the body. Or we can follow a visualization, but also other forms of meditation is sitting quietly in nature, right? Being immersed in an oxygen-rich environment, having the natural color green around us is extremely soothing. There are many studies on, for example, Shinrin-yoku, which is forest bathing, being amongst the plants and just allowing them to do the work for us. It's extremely grounding, centering. It brings oneself into self-acknowledgement. And then being in that kind of environment as well will also help us elevate our vibration. And when we elevate our vibration, when we're grateful for the beautiful nature around us, this reflects on our biochemistry, our neuroendocrine, and how we experience life. So I would suggest slowing down and connecting with self, firstly through breath, and then finding some meditative practice, scheduling in that time. Once a week, if you can, even starting small and then incremental.
And how important is it for younger girls to start these practices from early on? Because a lot of us tend to not invest in our future because we think, oh, perimenopause is so many years from us, or I'm not going to have my menopause for many years when you're in your 20s. How important is it to start doing all these practices from early stages of life?
I would say that everything is really accumulative in the body. We can do a lot of hard work to completely shift patterns within the body, but most is accumulative. So let's start educating the body early on. Let's lower toxin exposure. Let's regulate our central nervous system by connecting with these practices, and let's embrace as much as we can, at least 80 to 20%, an anti-inflammatory diet, because that will dictate how easy or how challenging perimenopause is. Remembering that one of the first things we spoke about is when women are experiencing difficult signs and symptoms of perimenopause, they go to the doctor, they go to their GP, and the GP gives them sertraline, gives them an antidepressant. How many women have sat down in my consultation room? And of course, this does make them feel better. We do need to approach the low mood, but it's only one of the signs and symptoms that we are covering up. We can prevent that. We can prevent depression. We can prevent cancer. We can prevent difficult relationship with our partner. We can prevent osteoporosis and low bone density. We can prevent night sweatings and sleepless nights by inviting some self-care practices early on in life. Because every moment we experience in our early life relating to stress exposure, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, will then dictate how difficult or easy perimenopause is. And it's life-changing. This is why many women, it isn't spoken about enough. Many women feel quite lost. And then they think their only solution is antidepressants. In conventional medicine, they also work with hormone therapy, bioidentical hormone therapy being the best, but this is usually only encountered in a private endocrine clinic. It's much more expensive. We need this to be accessible to the masses. We need to educate the people. I have many colleagues that are medical doctors as well, and they say themselves, there isn't enough education on the options that they have. So because the patient is presenting low mood, they will recommend sertraline very often. And then maybe down the line, they'll take an oral estrogen or progesterone, but no bioidentical, and also gels and patches through the skin, much more effective and much safer for the body. Oral hormones aren't as safe. The background research isn't usually done as well. That's why it's so controversial. And they don't give hormones at first. First, they give antidepressants. In 2002, there was a study that came out about hormone therapy. And they were giving oral estrogen and progesterone to women they hadn't done background checks on. They were unaware if they had genetic influence that was predisposing them to like breast cancer, uterine, ovarian cancer, blood clots, cardiovascular disease, because estrogen also affects blood clotting processes, and the amount of cholesterol you produce. They hadn't done this background research. So what they saw during the study was these women developed breast cancer, developed atherosclerosis, and it was thought to be very dangerous, but it is the type of hormone therapy. And they completely left out testosterone, remembering that our sex hormones are 3, they're not 2 or 1. Many women are just on estrogen after being on an antidepressant for a while. This is why a multifactorial approach is so important, and to understand the root causes, making each therapeutic prescription bespoke.
And how about contraceptives? Are they playing a factor in perimenopause? Because you mentioned that they take pills, and my understanding is that a lot of the contraceptives that we take in the form of pills are also hormones.
Absolutely, they are definitely hormones, and they will play a role. So aside from that being synthetic as well, we have seen that they contribute to the depletion of certain nutrients in the body, particular B vitamins, which are very important for our hormonal balance. Also, it will affect the gut microbiome. We know that both the combined pill, which is estrogen and progesterone, and the mini pill, the mini pill, which is just progesterone on its own. We also have, for example, the Mirena and coil, which is just progesterone, which is given to the body. Now, what we have found with the synthetic estrogens, initially there may be a little bit more of a perception of balance that is brought to the body, but long term, because they are synthetic, they will generate a lot of these dangerous estrogen metabolites. And the body isn't producing enough of its own healthy estrogens. So we're already setting in place this pathological process that we've been talking about from the get-go. With progesterone, again, another synthetic, but what we've found is that because of the cortisol steal, and many GPs, conventional doctors, have tapped into this as well, is you have to give the body back progesterone as soon as possible. And so from the get-go, it seems quite beneficial for some women to be on the mini pill or have the Mirena, for example, because it helps the production of progesterone so much from the cortisol steal. But in essence, they're always synthetic. They're always influencing your body out of its natural cycle, and you want to get back to that natural cycle. So you should sit down with a naturopath or functional medicine practitioner to figure out how to come back into a natural cycle using natural products. Synthetics will create an effect in the body, but the body knows that's not natural production, and it will down-regulate the natural production.
So we've covered the lifestyle and the diet and the supplements. Is there anything else that we can do to alleviate these symptoms?
The next step really would be, I suggest, bioidentical hormone therapy after getting your hormones tested and checked. Bioidentical hormone therapies, estrogen and progesterone, come from soy and from wild yam. Testosterone also comes in patches similar to the estrogen gel. Progesterone bioidentical can also come in oral form, but you really need to test your hormones first. There is one very famous test that a lot of us use, and I highly recommend it. It is called the Dutch hormone test, and it's a simple urine test. Nice and easy to do. You do it, the main one, 4 times a day, and that will allow us to be able to evaluate your cortisol cycle throughout the day and how that is affecting your sex hormone production and how you are metabolizing those sex hormones. It also looks into melatonin production, because sleep and relaxation is so important for our sex hormone production. Glutathione, the key antioxidant of the body. So yes, taking it to that next level and going more in depth in the best way possible, gathering all the most pertinent information you can first.
Amazing. Is there anything else that you would like to cover? Is there something that we haven't talked about that you think it's important for women to know about?
Stress root cause, avoid toxin exposure, especially microplastics, anti-inflammatory diet, especially focusing on cruciferous vegetables for metabolism of our hormones, consistent 3 meals a day, balanced but anti-inflammatory diet with healthy organic protein, wild-caught fish, healthy fats, rainbow colors on the plate for your vegetables, and a little bit of healthy carbs, being whole grain or whole food. And then work-life balance, really setting some boundaries for yourself, scheduling in that self-care time. And then if we need to take it a step further, taking a look at bioidentical hormone therapy and in-depth testing.
Amazing. I think we can wrap it up here. I need to add that none of it is medical advice. If anybody would like a consultation with Camila, I will leave a link to her website. And it's, as Camila said, it's very important to assess every individual and come up with a plan for each individual, because we're all different. And Camila also has started a cacao line.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us about Colibri?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, sister. Absolutely. So in part, yes, supporting testosterone production. Chocolate, as we know it, commercialized, has been refined, is full of non-organic dairy products, is full of soy lecithin, is genetically modified, all sorts that are hidden ingredients and slowly create some low-grade inflammation, steal away from our cortisol and hormone production. So we have unrefined raw cacao, ceremonial sacred cacao. We use natural sweeteners like raw honey and like coconut sugar and whole leaf stevia to sweeten our chocolate. The milky aspects of our chocolate comes from coconut milk powder, all organic, of course. So we want the least exposure to pesticides possible. And then we also incorporate some key therapeutic botanicals into our chocolate. So each chocolate will either support a particular ailment or a goal. You know, we have a divine feminine that enhances general female health. We have a divine masculine that enhances general masculine health and energy. But we also have an ADHD lion's mane, Perissum erinaceus mushroom that enhances nerve growth factor. Chocolate called brain power. We have a turmeric chai, so a golden milk chocolate rich in turmeric, one of the best anti-inflammatory herbs that we know, with some cinnamon as well, which lowers blood sugar, lowers stress in the body, with some cardamom as well, a nice digestive. In Ayurveda, we call this a tridoshik. It supports all the energies. And so a truly healthy and holistic chocolate brand. Many people, when they start their health journey, they repress themselves a lot in terms of they eliminate a lot of foods. We want to make sure that when they bring back in the foods and all the fiber diversity and all the joy of life and all the different flavors, that they get the best quality possible.
Amazing, and they are very delicious. So on top of all the good things about it, they're very delicious. Camila, thank you so much for joining me today. It's very, very educational and informative for me, and I hope that the viewers and the listeners will also find it very useful. And I will see you next month. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, sister.